So imagine you were young, free, single and looking to settle down. Hey, maybe you are. And you're out in a trendy bar with your friends. You look across the bar and you see the most attractive stranger you have ever seen. You think this person is the most beautiful person you've ever seen. You're absolutely smitten. So you pluck up the courage to walk across the bar and spark up conversation. And as you get closer, they look up and you lock eyes. You smile and your smile is returned. Your heart begins to beat faster and you can feel the excitement rise. This person could be the lifelong partner that you've been looking for. And flashes of all the awesome things you're going to do together for the rest of your life dance through your head. And just as you reach them, you blurt out, "Will you marry me?" Well, I guess you can imagine how that scenario might end up. You're going to end up looking pretty much like a fool and probably feeling a bit sleazy. And your potential perfect fit partner, well, they're going to feel awkward, probably thinks you're a bit of a jerk. And, if they haven't already turned on their heels and disappeared, they're anxiously scanning the room for an exit or trying to signal, to somebody to come and save them. And this story might sound like a little far-fetched, and yet this is exactly what plays out when the majority of businesses begin advertising online. And one of the most common mistakes I see people make with Facebook ads is rushing to the ask way too quickly, especially with a cold audience who has no idea who you are, what you do, or how you can help them. So today I'm going to show you a simple low-cost strategy which gets you the hottest prospects within a cold audience to raise their hand and identify themselves so that you can take your relationship to the next level. So instead of walking straight up to people and asking them to marry you, well, you take time to start a conversation and build a relationship. Hey, maybe ask them out for a coffee first, and along the way, find out if they are in fact a perfect fit partner, or did looks just deceive at first glance. And here's the thing, this isn't just a one-way decision. It's equally as important that your potential client gets an opportunity to figure out if you are the one, or if you're just another lounge lizard out for a one-night stand. This strategy is one of the quickest and fastest way for you to slash your cost per lead and cost per acquisition, especially if you're only starting out. Hi, I'm Micheál O'Neill, and if you're an online course creator or membership site owner who's about to launch a Facebook ad campaign, has a Facebook ad campaign that's underperforming, or you have a Facebook ad campaign that's working really well and now you want to scale it, this video series is for you. So in this series, we're going to uncover the approach you need to take to plan, launch, and manage profitable Facebook ad campaigns. In the first 5 sections, we will look at the key principles and approaches that you need to understand to ensure you get the best outcome when launching any campaign. The final video in the series will look at some of the big tactical what's working now tips. So no matter where you're looking at this, make sure to keep an eye out for the full series. In today's video, we're going to look at how to use a specific kind of low-cost Facebook ad to build a retargeting audience that will outperform any cold interest-based audience 100% of the time. I will explain the 3-level Facebook ad strategy that every Facebook ad campaign needs, and the ad type that best leverages this strategy, and why the Apple iOS 14.5 update ensures that this is one of the most valuable ads that you have in your arsenal. And then I'm going to look at 4 additional audiences that can significantly reduce your cost per lead and your cost per acquisition, and how you should start to build those audiences today. Facebook ads can be a bit of a bottomless pit for cash unless you can get the right message in front of the right audience. Every month thousands of people jump into Facebook ads without the correct strategies and end up wasting their hard-earned cash. In lots of cases, you'd be an awful lot better off taking your cash, putting it in an envelope, posting it off to Mark Zuckerberg, because at least then you wouldn't have wasted all your time setting up your ads. Most people never get their ads off the ground. And they end up saying, well, Facebook ads don't work for me, or my audience isn't on Facebook. But one of the big reasons is that they're targeting the wrong audience or trying to convert cold traffic, which even the best marketers in the world struggle with. Get this right, and it will ensure that you will cut out days, weeks, and months of pain, frustration, and wasted money. And yes, you still need to work at it. Like, this isn't a magical, silver bullet. But this strategy, you know that you're on the right track, and you will be short-circuiting a process that the majority of Facebook advertisers never get to the end of, and they end up leaving the platform. This is the fastest way to launch low-cost, profitable Facebook ads. And here's the funny thing. This is, when you have the top ad professionals, when they're launching campaigns, this is what they do. And the funny thing is, if you like, the amateur or new people into Facebook ads, they think, oh, well, I don't need to follow this campaign, or it's too complicated to follow, when the professionals can't even make cold traffic ads work. So once you truly understand this approach, you will have a process that you can apply to every single Facebook ad campaign you launch, and make sure that you're always advertising to the lowest cost audience who will be most likely to take action and sign up for your lead magnet or your front end offers. Oh, and speaking of taking action, you should really like, subscribe, and share this video. Give me a thumbs up, ring the bell, tell your friends. If you're finding this in any way useful, I would really appreciate your help in growing my community, because the bigger the community gets, the more time and effort and energy I can put into producing and sharing free content like this, which you can use to grow your online business, get your message into the world, and ultimately create the life you really want. So no matter where you're looking at this video, please like, share it, follow, subscribe to my profile for lots more on this topic and topics just like it. Okay, so back to today's content. Let's face it, ad costs are rising. And this isn't, Facebook are deciding to put up their costs. That's not the way it works. Simply put, Facebook have, X amount of real estate that they can advertise on. So that real estate are the Facebook feeds and, sidebar and multiple other placements of their Facebook members. When you have more and more people entering an auction market and willing to spend more money, which the people who Facebook ads are working for, they're willing to spend more money. You have the people who are entering the market for the first time, they're willing to spend money. And you've got these people in the middle who kind of just, they're still figuring out what they need to do. But as a result, you've got all this extra people coming in, wanting to spend more money for a fixed amount of real estate that Facebook can advertise on. The result is the costs are rising. Now, that is not anything, the fact that the costs are rising is not the issue. It's the fact that most people don't have the ability to optimize, first of all, to reduce those costs, and then secondly, to get a return on the back end of their funnel. So what you need to do is you need to use the very best strategies in order to minimize your costs and then to maximize the revenue that you make on the other end. And that's exactly what we're talking about here today. But we've got more and more people targeting basically the same audiences. And the thing is, the audiences that that you're targeting, the audience who are most likely to take action, guess what? It's not just people, you're not just competing against people directly in your industry. So let's say if you're in the fitness industry, you don't just have to worry about other fitness trainers, but think about it. Who else will be targeting your clients? So it could be anything from one of your clients could have a dog, they could be interested in dogs. So you might have all the dog companies where, selling dog food or dog toys or dog training. They could be interested, as well as fitness, they might be interested in guitar. So you might have, all the guitar people targeting your audience. So you have to think here that, the audiences, the most valuable audiences and the audience that are most worth targeting are the highest cost audience. And going straight for the ask is expensive and difficult. And that's why you need a strategy. So there are 3 levels every Facebook ad campaign needs. And the 3 levels are top of funnel, middle of funnel, and bottom of funnel. So that's top of funnel TOFU, middle of funnel MOFU, and bottom of funnel BOFU. So they're the 3 levels that every Facebook ad campaign. I'm going to bring you through them now. So basically your top of funnel. Well, in the top of funnel, we want to keep our audiences really, really wide. This is where we use our interest-based audience. And see, one of the problem is, in interest-based, when you go and you ask somebody who doesn't know you, who doesn't understand you, who doesn't understand the benefit to take action, they're unlikely to do that. So what we want to do is we want to build a structure. So yes, I'm not saying that we're not going to use our interest-based audiences. However, we need to use them smartly. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at this at the top of funnel level to build awareness. And one of the big things that we want is we want to get engagement. So we want to get people who are engaging and consuming our content. Our goal is to build the audiences with our top of funnel campaigns that we will retarget during our middle of funnel campaign. So we want to hook people into our concepts, our values, and your approach, and to really create that personal connection. And I'll show you the strategy that I use later on to really get your personality out there and to let people see who you are and what you're all about. So your campaign objectives at the top of funnel will be brand awareness, reach, traffic, engagement, video views. Now, a lot of times if you're talking to Facebook advertisers or people who know, they'll say, the only campaigns you should be running are conversion campaigns. And yes, there's a time and a place for conversion campaigns. But at our top of funnel, basically what we want to do is get in front of people. Why do we want to use this? Well, we want to use these types of campaigns because guess what? The ones that I have just mentioned, the brand awareness, reach, traffic, engagement, video views, they are the cheapest form of, kind of adverts that you can run. Now, just because they're cheap doesn't mean we need to advertise. And as I said, this doesn't, this strategy that I'm going to share with you doesn't necessarily just work straight out of the box. You still need to follow everything that I've discussed earlier in this series, such as getting the right, kind of image, getting the right video, having the right headlines, drafting the ad copy in a way that compels and moves people. So we still need to use all this, but this just, when we apply what I've already discussed in this series with this strategy, that's when the magic happens. So what sort of content are we going to put out here? Well, we're going to have Facebook text posts. Now, Facebook text posts, so, a post on Facebook can have up to, I think it's a weirdly specific number, something like 62,360 characters, which is essentially I think is about 18 A4 pages at like size 10 font. So you can almost put a book on Facebook. I'm not considering you do that, but I'm saying you can put long form content. So what you might do is you might have like a Facebook post where you take one of your blog posts, maybe you might strip it down a little bit and get that content out there. You might have a Facebook native video. That's another really, really good way to go with your top of funnel ads. And we will talk about these in a little bit more later in this video. Or you might drive people off Facebook. So you might drive people to your blog posts, to a video somewhere else. Now, the one challenge with that and why that is becoming less and less relevant is due to the Apple iOS 14.5 update. So again, that's another point that I'm going to touch on a little bit later, so I just want to mark that out for you. But really, this is the discovery phase. So in here, your content is non-biased. You're looking at informational, educational based content. And really, you want to be thinking about how you can, best engage and show people that you really understand them. So your call to action here is going to be relatively weak, as in you're not asking them to do much. You're asking them to watch the video, to maybe read a blog post, to comment, to engage. Anything that doesn't really require a big commitment. Because if somebody doesn't know you, guess what? They're unlikely to, commit to something significant. So then we look at our middle of funnel. So in our middle of funnel, we're going to leverage the audiences from the top of funnel. And that's basically the people who have engaged or interacted with the content of the top of funnel adverts. And this is the evaluation stage. So now we're getting a little bit more serious. And here we're hoping to move people from prospect to qualified lead. Now, depending on, like, e-commerce has a slightly different, description of top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel. For information products and membership site owners, I think this is the best, description of top of funnel, middle of funnel. So in the middle of funnel, our real goal is to get people to opt into our email, opt in for lead magnet and to get their email address. The middle of funnel, if you think about this, it's nearly like the bridge between your free content and your offering. And so what you're doing is, you go out with your free content, you look to engage people, you look to, get them to understand. But now what you're doing is you're really filtering and sorting out the people who are interested. So these are people, the interested people would have engaged with your video and maybe liked it, maybe, sat on a video for a while, or they could have liked your post or read your post. So there's somebody interested. But there is a difference between people who are interested and people who are interested right now and willing to take action. So what we use our middle of funnel is like this bridge to get the people who are willing to take action to take a micro step. Because again, you don't want to do too big of an ask. You want to take little steps. You want to give them that. And how you do that is through giving them something of true value. Now, I spent a lot of time talking about, the lead magnet and what the lead magnet should do. But bottom line, your lead magnet should really be answering the question, what is holding your perfect fit client back now? It should be giving them the very next step that they need to take on their road through the ultimate transformation that you can provide. What are some of the formats here? Well, some of the hot lead magnets at the moment, checklists, quizzes, cheat sheets, templates, scripts, roadmaps, maybe fill in the blanks, right? So these are all things that are working really, really well at the moment. Some less appealing things that, were probably really good, up until recently or in the past are things like guides, white papers, ebooks, videos, mini courses, webinars. You know what? There's nothing wrong with any of these, but I think if you see, if you notice the difference between what I said are the hot lead magnets, checklist, quiz, cheat sheets, templates, scripts, roadmaps, fill in the blanks, and the not hot, let's call them cold, guides, white papers, ebooks, videos, mini courses, webinars, I think one thing really stands out. The cold ones are the ones where there's more in it. It looks like more effort, because you know what? People have gotten so used to opting in for stuff coming in, and a lot of times they don't even look at it. Because it's, there's a feeling that they're going to have to do some level of work in order to get the benefit. People are tired, people are lazy. They want to your lead magnet, to have a good lead magnet. The value from the lead magnet should be available to people within no more than 15 minutes of downloading the lead magnet. So whatever it is, they should be able to consume and get the benefit of your lead magnet within that 15 minutes. And unfortunately now, ebooks, people, I don't worry. If people want an ebook, they'll go onto Amazon, they'll go onto Audible, they'll go wherever, and they'll download and they'll buy one. They're not necessarily going to opt in for one, so you need to be careful. Another big one, that worked really well in the past, but is now very, very difficult, is the likes of webinars. So, webinars, people have become a little bit webinar jaded. So webinars in their own right are exceptionally good, but webinars as, middle of funnel, or webinars as methods for lead generation is not great. Webinars as sales tools can still work, even though they're more difficult to get to work. So your primary goal at the middle of funnel campaign will be conversions. And typically you're targeting people who've already engaged with you, so here what we can do is we can use the reach objective to ensure that everybody who has engaged with you is reached. Okay, so there's two different ways we could go about this. We could use a conversion objective, or we could use the reach objective. We've built the audience in the top of funnel, and now we have our audience contained for our middle funnel that is defined. We can then run ads with either a reach objective or a conversion objective to this audience. Technically, the reach objective is the one on paper that's meant to work best, because with the reach objective, your ad targets everybody in that audience. Whereas if it's a conversion objective, it'll only show your ads to a smaller subset of your retargeting audience, and that subset is the subset that Facebook thinks will take the action that you specify. However, this is always something that I test, and I've been surprised at times with which one wins out. So I'd advise you to maybe take a similar one. So you can either, in terms of targeting, for your middle of funnel, you're either looking at, the objective in terms of middle funnel is either reach or conversion. And remember, lead ads can be very, very cost effective. They're very quick, they're very easy to get up. One of the big things is, especially at a testing phase for a lead magnet, one of the great things about the lead form ads is you don't need an opt-in page. And there's a whole lot of copy you don't have to worry about. So all you need to worry about your ad. So if you've got a lead magnet that you want to test, I'd say yes, absolutely. Your lead form ads can be a very cost-effective way of going about it. The leads are normally cheaper. However, often the quality of the leads is not as high as if they leave Facebook and opt in from your landing page. And I think it's because there is that barrier in there, that people have to take that action. There's some friction, and only the people who are most serious about it will leave Facebook to go to an opt-in page, read the opt-in page, and do the opt-in. Whereas your lead form ads, literally somebody clicks it, it pops up in front of them, Facebook auto-fills the details, and on you go. So what sort of our Facebook ad collateral will work well here? Well, your single image ads will work, carousel or multi-image ads, and video ads. They're all effective during your middle of funnel campaigns. And your call to actions will include, visit the opt-in page, subscribe, register, sign up. So they're all the the elements of our middle of funnel. Now we come to the bottom of funnel. And this is where we ask for the sale. So far, all we've done is give. So we gave value without any ask in the top of funnel. In the middle of funnel, we've asked people we've given more value, we've given them something for free, but they had to take a little bit of action. Now, that step in its own right is important, because there is a psychological principle called consistency. And if somebody opts into something, they've basically, in their mind, they have committed that, it was a good idea for them to opt in for the lead magnet. Now, when it comes to bottom of funnel, there's a tend towards consistency. People don't necessarily want to let on that an initial decision that they made was not necessarily the best decision. So there is this, getting people to opt in and taking this approach and making them make these micro commitments along the way is very powerful when it comes to a sales, when it comes to your sales position, your bottom of funnel. So you're here in the bottom of funnel, your audiences are really tight. So now we've really wound it down. We're not going to be looking at any, interest-based, anything else. We're purely only working on retargeting people who have taken very, very specific action. So, people who have registered for a lead magnet, or people who have proceeded through a certain amount of steps in a launch, or indicated some intent to purchase. And as a result, this will be the lowest spend ads with your highest ROI. So normally, in terms of your overall campaign budget, your bottom of funnel will have the lowest ad spend per percentage. Now, the other thing is that at this stage, we can make some assumptions about people and who we are targeting. So we can assume that the people know us, right? So that's fine, because they've already been through some communication process in the upper levels of the funnel. We can assume that they understand the problem we solve, that they're familiar with the method we use to solve the problem, and that they're vested in solving their problems, because sometimes that's a key element that sometimes is missing from people. So based on that, then we can then start honing in on how our offer is going to transform their life, and really we can get right down to brass tacks we can come straight into back up our claims. We can, how we're going to help them achieve the goals specifically that they want. We don't have to worry about, doing any kind of, work on that they want the outcome that we've got. And we can outline any risk reversal or anything, tell them if it's a deadline. And so now any of the triggers that we're going to do through our offer, we can actually now use these in our ads, because we know that these people are very, very much aware of the problem, that what we solve, how we're going to solve it, and they should also have gotten a good sense for who we are, and if they want to take their journey with us further. Okay, so iOS 14 has had a significant impact on advertising, and essentially what it means is that anybody, so obviously Facebook, when you put a Facebook ad up, Facebook knows exactly who's clicking on that and then who goes to a website. And once they have, taken that initial action, iOS 14 allowed people to block tracking on third-party websites. So it means that basically now the Facebook pixel can't report on the action that that people are taking off Facebook. Okay, so what does that mean in real terms? Well, it means that the pixel isn't as good at reporting what people have done off Facebook. Some things on that, firstly, 26.75% of users are on iOS, so in terms of phone. Now, that's that. So about a quarter of people use iOS products. But here's the thing, but probably that is higher percentage, if you look on that on a global basis, probably our audiences will have a little bit higher percentage than that. However, if you also look at it, well, not everybody is using an iPhone all the time. Yes, the majority of users are going to come from mobile. However, are a good chunk of users. However, there's still a lot of people are using desktop. So, that's not applicable on desktop just yet, even though I'm sure if it came into iOS, it's also going to come into OS very shortly. And as a result, it really has blocked our ability to track what people are doing on our website, or to have really consistent and really dependable data from our website. However, there was something before even iOS 14 came up, which now is going to, I think, be one of the best mediums going forward, is native video on Facebook. So when you place a video on Facebook and when you promote a video on Facebook, anybody who interacts with that video, you can build a custom audience from. Now, one of the benefits of video, opposed to, we can also do this with Facebook posts, we can also do this with, kind of basically any sort of our Facebook page, but one of the massive benefits of video is, not alone can you build an audience of who has seen that video, but you can also build audiences based on the duration that somebody has spent on that video. And this is massive, because in kind of a social media world where people are just continuously scrolling along on their feed, if somebody stops and actually looks at your video for a decent period of time, well, it shows a certain level of commitment and interest, way above somebody who is just kind of either liking something or maybe throwing out a quick comment. So video has long been one of the best mediums to build audiences and get an indication of the level of interest. The other beautiful thing about video ads is they're extremely cheap. As in, you can do, so a lot of these campaigns you can get like sub 1 cent video views, and on the expensive end you're probably looking at about 5 cents per video view. So if you're being charged 5 cents per video view and you spend $50, now you've potentially got an audience of 1,000 people. which is quite cool. So, you know, so this strategy uses, basically the strategy that I'm talking about here uses video in the top of funnel ads to build the audiences for the middle of funnel. So what kind of videos are these? Well, these videos, they want to be no longer than 45 to 60 seconds. Think of them as nuggets, and you have to think of them in terms of where your perfect fit client is on their journey. So what questions are running through their heads? What's holding them back? You know, what are the 5 to 6 little nuggets that would show them you understand them and their challenges? Show them a better future than they've imagined for themselves. Position yourself as a guide that can help them achieve that future. Demonstrate that you have a plan for them to follow, a plan that has helped people just like them achieve their innermost desires and goals. And show them that you care deeply and that above all else you believe in them and you want them to succeed. And you really look on this sequence as stepping stones or breadcrumbs to lead them to the ultimate solution, which is your lead magnet. So let's look at a breakdown of one of these campaigns. So I'm just going to switch over here. I'm just going to switch over here and look at how this campaign. So we start off with our initial audience, and this is probably going to be interest-based audiences. So as I said before, I'm not anti-interest-based audience. It's just they're very, very hard to get to convert cold. So we're going to start off with our interest audience, and to this we're going to come up. Now I've put 4 videos here purely because the size of the screen, and I didn't want to make it overly complicated. I would ideally like to start off here with 6 videos. So when you're doing it, 6 videos. So these are short, as I said, you know, kind of 60 to 45 to 60 second videos. And in here, I'll share with you a kind of an outline for this in a second. But we're literally just talking at 45 to 60 seconds. You see, the thing is, on social, 45 seconds is actually a huge amount of time to give, you know, a interest to something. 60 seconds is almost a lifetime, and most people don't give that. So what you want to do is you want to make these videos as short, as concise, but also as helpful as possible. And that's why I think really, if you think of them as nuggets or if you think of them as breadcrumbs, it's really, really powerful. So what we're going to do is we're going to show these videos to this audience. Then, based on interactions. Now, starting off, you know, there's going to be different levels to this campaign. So starting off initially, you're probably, in order to get the campaign up and running, you're probably going to be looking at people who maybe look at 25% of the video. Or you might, you know, ultimately when you get to it, you really want to get to 75%. Or, you know what, even going to when you have your videos completely honed in and down, you might be looking at people who have looked at 100%. So based on the interactions on these videos, you then build your audience and they come up into your middle of funnel retargeting audience. Then at your middle of funnel retargeting audience, you now have your middle of funnel ad 1, ad 2, ad 3, and ad 4. So these may be video ads or they may be, you know, kind of normal ads. And the goal of these ads is to drive people to your lead magnet, to your opt-in page, and to register for your lead magnet. Then, based on the interactions, and really what we're talking about here is your bottom of funnel, these are going to be people who visited the thank you page for your LM. So anybody who has visited your thank you page, or you might have a different way of you know, kind of building this audience, but it's going to be people who have opted in. So maybe it could be people who have specifically, you know, clicked a button to submit their details. But one of the ways that you can do it here is through your thank you page on your lead magnet. So that kind of breaks down where we have our top of funnel. So that's our top of funnel. We then have our middle of funnel, and then we have our bottom of funnel. And then obviously our bottom of funnel, we're going to run more ads here to the bottom of funnel people in order to then sell into like our mini product. Maybe it's our mini product, maybe it's our signature product or our membership. So that kind of, looks at, the video ad strategy part of it. But there are some additional audiences that really I think you should be considering, and that you can leverage not just for this process but also for other campaigns, because most people start out with interest or demographic or behavior based audiences, and trust me, these are the hardest to convert. So even the seasoned Facebook ad pros who are ninja copywriters and have all the experience in the world, they tend not to try to convert cold traffic because they know it's harder. So where are some of the places where we can look? Well, the first place we can look to is our website visitors. So notwithstanding the iOS 14 challenges, your website, so the pixel on your website is still a really valuable source of information. The first thing that I would do is I would make sure that the pixel is installed throughout your entire website. I would have one audience which is for all website visitors. So that's anybody who visits any page on the domain. Then what I would do is I would break my audiences down, because you might have service pages, you might have blog pages, you might have different. I would definitely have one for blog, because if somebody has read your content, that means that they are more qualified than somebody who's just visited your homepage or visited a single landing page. Then you can have each of your landing pages can have another custom audience. And remember, all these audiences can be combined. Once you have it, the most important thing to do, I was in an ad account the other day, and it was somebody who had serious problems. Their cost per lead was through the roof. It was a friend of mine, so I was kind of looking at it for a favor. And the first thing I said to them is, look, you don't have custom audiences set up for your website. And they came back and said, I mentioned that to my Facebook ad expert, and they said that we can't use custom audiences until it's over 1,000 people. And I was just like perplexed. I was like, yes, but now is the time to start building it, and now is the time to identify the specific ones, because now is when the traffic is going. So you could look at the entire specific pages based on URLs and specific duration on pages, or specific duration on pages. So you could have one audience which is blog, but you could have another audience which has based on specific blogs, maybe a time that is spent on the page, so somebody who's really read it. And remember, if you've got lead magnets, straight away the first campaigns that you should be setting up in Facebook are actually website retargeting campaigns, so that whenever anybody visits your website, they get a retargeting ad to opt in for a lead magnet, and they get that over a very specific period of time and almost immediately. That's when people's awareness of you will be at its highest. And this is one thing that I don't understand. If you're getting into Facebook ads, if you're spending money, this is such a cheap campaign and a quick win that I just can't understand why people don't do this more often. But not all retargeting audiences are equal. So what you should do with your website visits is, for each custom audience that you think is valuable to have, I would have timelines in there. So the easiest people for you to get a result from will be people in the 1 to 3 days after they have visited your website. Like I remember one of the top Facebook ad gurus saying that if you can even when you get to even 10 days, it's almost like people have gone cold again. And if you can manage to re-engage people after 10 days and get them to sign up for something or get a sale after 10 days, your ads are just doing phenomenally well. So what you want to do is, depending on the complexity of the ads, I normally set up like a 1 day, a 3 day, a 7 day, and then out to 14, 21, 30, 60, 90, and 180. So they're normally the audiences that I kind of build based on URLs, because you never know when you might need one of these audiences. It's not as if you're going to be charged anything to keep them on Facebook, so you might as well have them built. You don't know exactly now when you need them, but the fact is, if you need an audience in the future, it's too late. So you need to have them built now, because you're really, especially if you have something like a mini product where you're doing your ad to a lead magnet. Your lead magnet then, has an upsell to a mini product. Realistically, if you're advertising to that person for 3, even 5 days after they have opted in for the lead magnet and they have not bought, the chances of them buying after 5 days is slim to none. So there's very little. You're going to be wasting money if you're continuing to advertise to them. Another great audience is engagements. So engagements on your Facebook page, engagement on your Facebook posts, engagements from Instagram. And remember, one of the ways that you, basically what I described in your top of funnel, you can also do this on a daily basis. Let's say if you have a blog, and let's say you produce weekly blog content. What I would suggest is take every blog you produce, put a post out on Facebook, with a link to the blog describing what's in the blog and what it is. And from there, put some cash behind that. Create an advert for that blog. And it doesn't have to be a huge amount of cash, but maybe $25, $30, even $50 per blog post. Like, think about the amount of time, effort, and energy and the cost to you of producing a blog post. And then people don't think to promote it afterwards. So I would definitely promote that blog post. Then what you're doing is you're building the audience of the people who engage with the post on Facebook. But then in addition, you're also building the audience of the website visitors who go there. So now, not alone that, and obviously your blog page should have a sidebar with an opt-in for that as well, which means now you're also getting an opportunity to get some opt-ins from that. And don't forget Instagram. So you can also have your engagements. If people engage with you on Instagram, that's another audience you can target. Another one that sometimes people forget about is lists. So you've got your client list. So these are people who've purchased from you in the past. You've also got your contact lists. Now those lists can be uploaded into Facebook, and audience can be created from them. Now at the moment, Facebook doesn't actually tell you how many people are in the audiences. But I remember from doing this previously, if you're getting about 25 to 40%, Facebook matching 25 to 40% of the people who are on your list, just because the email address that you have might not necessarily be the email address that somebody has used to register for Facebook. And if you're getting 25 to 40%, you're doing really, really well. So these client and contact lists in their own right aren't hugely powerful. However, if you run lookalike audiences, so then the next audience, the fourth audience that I want to talk about is lookalike audience. So lookalike audiences, you can take any of the above and you can build, as I said, a lookalike audience. So what does a lookalike audience mean? Well, the way they're defined and the way you set them up on Facebook is, hey, Facebook, based on this group of people, build me another group which look like a certain percentage of the population of a country. So, population of America, population of Canada, or America and Canada. And build me an audience of the 1% of that population that look most like my original audience. So what this is, it's a way of leveraging your existing data, and for Facebook to match the people who are most like the people that you specify in the overall network. So it's a great way of leveraging it. There's a lot of talk at the moment, has iOS impacted on lookalike audiences? Well, no, they haven't, because whatever about iOS blocking actions on a Facebook page, or blocking actions off Facebook on a web page, Facebook still knows who all these people are, and the fact is, Facebook still knows what their Facebook users are doing afterwards. Facebook just can't let you specifically target them with ads, and that's something that's very, very important, because even if if you set up a lookalike audience of people who visited a specific page, don't forget, Facebook knows, like let's say if you have a thank you page for a lead magnet opt-in, Facebook still knows that that person visited that thank you page. Facebook will still be able to, create a lookalike audience with people who are exactly like that person, or potentially even is that person. So there is a debate there. We don't really know, but technically, if you specify a lookalike audience of people who visited a page, that well could include the person who actually visited the page. So it takes now, previously we would have always said that the sweet spot for lookalike audiences probably was the 1% audience. So that was 1.5 to 2.5 million people. What I've seen in practice is that, and this sounds a little bit strange, because what you're doing, let's say if you have your lookalike audiences work best when you have over 1,000 people in your original audience. However, I've also tried this with like 70, 80, 90 people, and it has, believe it or not, it has worked. But they do work best. You need an original audience size of about 1,000, and then you can build your lookalike audience. But basically what you're asking is, who are the 1.5 million people in America who look most like these 1,000 people? But bizarrely enough, what has started happening over the last while is that the 5% and even up to 7-8% lookalike audience is performing better than the 1% audience. So normally what I do is I would create a 1% lookalike, or maybe a 1 to 3% lookalike, and then also do a 3 to 7 or to 8% lookalike, and then I'd run those two lookalike audiences against each other in different ad sets. It just gives you, something to test. You might only test it for 3-4 days, see who the winner is, and then either you consolidate them or you go with the winner. Okay, so today we looked at an approach for fine-tuning your Facebook ad audience. I shared 3 levels that every Facebook ad campaign needs: TOFU, MOFU, BOFU. And actually, as a little bonus for those of you who've hung out with me all the way here to the end, just in terms of what percentage budget would you put to each of those levels. So top of funnel will normally be 10 to 30% of budget. Remember, the top of funnel is cheaper, kind of per action, because you're not asking for big asks. All you're asking to do is for people to engage. The middle of funnel will normally have 40 to 80% of the budget. And then the bottom of funnel will normally have 10 to 30%. So look at, these are broad industry standards. It's not, and as somebody who's potentially starting off, or you mightn't be very clear on the budgets that you're overall assigning to your campaigns, but that is a handy way to think about it. So top of funnel 10 to 30%, middle of funnel 40 to 80%, bottom of funnel 10 to 30%. I then looked at a specific video ad strategy that can beat iOS 14 and slash your ad cost. And then we looked at 4 other audience types that you should prioritize over interest, behaviors, and demographics. Boy, was this fun video a fun one to make. So, look, wherever you're looking at this today, please share this video. Make sure to subscribe and like the channel or account for lots more content just like this. And even more importantly, please do scroll down and leave me a comment. I promise I reply to each and every one personally. I know Facebook ads can be frustrating, but let me know what challenges you face with your ads, whether you're just getting started or you're a seasoned pro looking to scale your ad campaigns. Sometimes all we need is a bit of encouragement and to know we're not battling it out on its own. So whatever you're facing today, you got this. We're here for you. Thank you for tuning in, and I can't wait to see you again real soon.